Why doesn't this work? Just make me a reed. Please make me a reed.
Oh, dear Abby. Of course. Look. You're a reed. There you are, Abby. A beautiful reed. If only it were really that easy. But alas, it is not. There are several stages of reed making that we must go through, not just the magic wand. We begin with tying.
Are you sure this is how this works?
Why, Abby dear, it seems as if you've gotten yourself all tied up in knots. Let me help you out of this pickle. Beeswax is a must for tying reeds. It ensures that the reed will not leak through the thread, and it will keep the thread securely on the tube. So I wax before I tie the thread onto whatever device I'm using for tying, whether it's a cup hook or a C-clamp or a table leg or a handle, furniture handle, whatever. And then I also wax again before I start tying. Then you make sure that your cane is displaced going to the right. This is proper displacement. Top goes to the right, and you can see the bottom blade on the left. You place it that way when you put it on the mandrel. You make sure that your mandrel is flat in your hand so that the oval of the tube and the mandrel is also flat. You don't want to be tying like this, crooked, or heaven forbid, like this. You'll never get it to close. This particular shape piece of cane has to be tied at about 72.5 in order to close. All shapes are different. So I have a list in the reed manual about different shapes and what their tying length should be. But you measure from the bottom of the tube to the top of the piece of cane with a metric ruler until you get to the desired length, and this is about 72.5. I always, since I was in the 8th grade, have marked with a pencil where the top of the tube is on the piece of cane, on both sides. I do this so that I won't tie over or under tie. Then, with the mandrel perpendicular to the thread, and you're pulling tautly, which means tight, like a guitar string, violin string, whatever your preferred string instrument, you start to wrap. And I use my middle finger and my thumb to do this. I use my thumb to wrap and my middle finger to pull the thread back. This is beautiful. This is not a good table to tie with. So we're going to try and reattach it again. In a state of complete desperation, the reed fairy must choose to sit in an unladylike manner and use a chair backwards. That table decided to collapse on us. So this always works when you're in a bind, which we are. Oh, lipstick. Generally, I don't advise the use of lipstick in reed making or playing the oboe. But when one is dressed as a fairy, there really is no alternative. So we have that nice pencil mark to go by. Once again, on the perpendicular of the thread. We're about 3 winds below that marking. You can check on both sides. It's not closing on this side, but it is closing on this side. So what I might do is just undo it and shift it a little bit over to make sure that it closes the same amount on both sides. Okay, now I'm just below that thread mark. Some teachers advise their students to finish tying and do the overlap at 0.5 below the crossover. I say just below the pencil mark. I don't know if that's 0.5 below or not, but if that's what your teacher tells you to do, then just below the pencil mark, I want you to check your lineup and see. You can let go enough to look and see if the reed is straight, which it is. You can see if it's closed to both the same amount on both sides, which it is. And then you do your crossover. And when you're crossing over the thread and you're winding this piece of thread in along with what you're tying. You still keep that same amount of tautness, and you don't let it get less when you wind around. Many students let the tautness lessen, and that's what makes the reed get crooked when they tie. Or if they suddenly tie and then pull really hard, that's what breaks the thread. So just keep it the same amount of tight. Go all the way down, and here now you've finally gotten enough secure that you can move your fingers down onto the tube. Now everyone has a different way to do a knot. I do it with my index finger at the end of the thread and my thumb towards the spool like I'm tying a big bow. I keep my index finger here because I don't want the thread to go all the way up and over. And then I loop it. And then I pull. That's the most important one. After that, you can finally let loose. And then I do another one around the back. I do the same thing. Around here, tie a bow. Then I do another one like I just did. And I do 3 or 4 of those. Because it sure sucks to make a great reed and watch it unravel in the middle of a rehearsal. Then I smooth in the beeswax, and there's your reed. And then you cut it off close to the Oh dear Kaylee, don't you know you can't make reeds with a dull knife? Only a sharp knife will do. These are my 3 basic elements for knife sharpening. This is available through DMT products. It's a diamond stone. It's called DMT Sharp or Dia Sharp Fine. It's a 600 grit diamond stone. It's not as coarse feeling as the ones from Easy Lap. And what I do is use this first. And I usually do it in my lap because I'm not comfortable doing it on a flat surface, although I am capable, so I will for the purposes of this fine film that you are seeing. And yes, I use straight razors, and you sharpen them just like you do any other knife, except a beveled knife, which is a whole different ball of wax. You can go in circles if you apply the same amount of pressure throughout the whole blade, but you have to be sure that you're doing that, otherwise you will warp your blade and it will end up curved. How do I know I'm applying the same amount of pressure? Because if I were to put my hand on the blade, it would feel the same. I would feel that there is the same amount of pressure. And since I'm old and I've been doing this a very long time, I know what the same amount of pressure feels like. So then after I've done it flat on both sides, and there's no element of a bevel on the blade, I go at an angle. Towards me, it's a smaller angle, but I use a more significant angle than a lot of people, so it's probably more like 15 and 30. And I do this about 2 to 3 times. After I've done that, that does create a little dust too, I use this Diamond V, which is also by DMT. The sad thing about this is that they're no longer making these. So if you're able to use ceramic sticks, use those. They do make something similar to this that is just one of these. You might try that. There are several other things out there that you can do. I just have hoarded several of these, which I hope last as long as I do. And you use them much like ceramic sticks. You go perpendicular. Usually do that a couple of times, 2 to 3 times. And then I can't live without this, and this I do on my leg. This is an old Forstner steel, smooth polished steel. It's not like something that you have in your kitchen at home. Those generally have a little bit of roughness to them. Forstner has now been bought over by Victorinox, and that's what you would be getting now. But if you were to buy one, you have to get one that's completely smooth and polished. You don't want anything that has any kind of roughness to it at all. And then I use the same edge that I did on the stone.
What's that?
Between 15 and 30, 15 on one side and 30 on the other. And it should grab your nail. You're not trying to see what it takes off. You're not peeling something. You want it to grab. So this for me is sharp. And these are the knives that I do my tip work with. I have knives for tip work, and I have knives for taking the bark off of the blanks. And I would suggest that you have knives for doing bark work and knives for doing tip work, because it's a different kind of thing, and you'll dull your knives and chip your knives for your tip work if you mix them up. And I think it's good to have two different kinds of knives. So that's what I have to say about sharpening. But you will go through. You can't make a reed with a spoon, as I often say to my students. And having a sharp knife is the most important thing in reed making. And you'll be sharpening your knife constantly when you're making a reed. Almost after every 2 scrapes, I sharpen my knife. So if you're not doing that, you either have the most amazing knife I've ever seen, or you're able to do something I've never been able to do. So sharpen those knives.